All right. Hello, parents. Just a quick introduction. Welcome today, first of all. Thanks for joining us. My name is Rosalie Prendergast. I'm a board certified behavior analyst with Eclipse Therapy. We're a small practice in Evergreen, Colorado, and we are part of the happy medium approach, which is what you'll see on our Crowdcast channel. You'll also see oodles and oodles of CEU events that are for behavior analysts. So we do a lot of work to provide training outside of Eclipse, which there's about 12 of us right now within Eclipse. And I will let Erin introduce herself, who's an amazing part of our team.
I'm Erin Marble, and I am an RBT who's been with Eclipse for about 3.5 years. And I enjoy the happy medium approach, and I'm excited to see what's going on today.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to share my screen and we will get started. There's a couple of different features. The whole presentation today is downloadable and it's in the green button that's under Erin and I. You can ask questions in the chat. You're welcome to just say hello, where you're from, if you feel like it. If you don't want to, don't worry at all. If you do have questions throughout the presentation, we really want this to be helpful and useful for you. So if there's something that we're saying that doesn't quite make sense, or you want more information, or want to just join, feel free. We're happy to have you kind of part of this presentation. It's all for you guys. So here we go. I'm going to share and we'll get started. Hopefully, if I remember how to do this. I took like a month off of doing crowdcasts, and I think I'm now a little bit rusty. All right, there we go. So everybody should be able to see my screen. I'm going to go into full screen view. And if people need me to make it bigger, I certainly can. Otherwise, you guys have the PDF to download. If it's easier for you to follow along and make it the size that works best for you. So today we're talking about sticky words, sticky context, sticky people, where as an adult or as even another child in a context, you can't even get the words out before that individual's kind of in the throes of a tantrum. It's like just that word is a trigger for big challenging behavior, or even just kind of big defiance, like, hey, I just don't want to do this. So part of something that we like to do within Eclipse Therapy, we work really hard to keep ourselves psychologically flexible, where we're contacting both five senses, experiencing the world around us, as well as the things that are going on inside of our body, which is kind of mental experiencing. So before we touch base on a challenging topic like sticky words, sticky context, sticky people, we like to do which is called a shared purpose matrix. And it's from acceptance and commitment therapy. Dr. Kevin Polk was the designer of it. And he actually has a lovely crowdcast. It's called Matrix Talk. If you're interested in this tool, it is something that we utilize in groups, we utilize individually, and feel free to participate as we go around our 4 quadrants today. Erin and I will answer, but feel free to chime in if you'd like to. Along the top, you'll see the word 5 senses experiencing. Those are things, again, that we're going to be able to see or hear. On the bottom, you're going to see things like mental experiencing, the things that might go on inside of us that we can't necessarily see or hear everybody else doing, but we certainly can observe ourselves doing them, and we can observe those things. Oh, yeah, you caught us live, Angelise. Good. So feel free to join in as we ask these questions, or just sit back and listen. So I'm going to ask the first question, which is in our lower right-hand quadrant of our matrix here. Who or what is important to you in our shared purpose today? And I'm going to go ahead and kind of list off some of our kind of obvious ones. The child is important. I think we, as the adults, are important. I'm going to say teachers, eras, relatives are important in this conversation. Oh, and I've already got to warn everybody, my spelling, yeah, relationships, dignity, trust is important, I think, too. I think progress is something that's really important in this discussion. What else am I going to say? Erin, what are you thinking? What's important to you in our shared purpose? Who or what?
Well, I mean the parents, but I think that was with we as adults.
Yeah. I forget you're not a parent yet. We parents. You too, Erin, though.
Do we have clinicians on there?
Yeah, I think clinicians are an important part of this discussion for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Calm and peaceful homes. Yeah. I think a successful child, I put child up there, but one that's successful from their point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, emotionally safe environments. For sure. There we go. Awesome. That's a pretty good list to start. We can add if we want to. So when we're thinking about these sticky contexts, these sticky words, right? Like when you don't even get the words out and you've already got some challenging behavior going, what yucky stuff shows up inside? What emotions, what rules, what physical feelings? And I think for me, I can go ahead and say fear shows up right away. Oh yeah, Angeles, you and I are right on the same page with that one. Fear shows up right away. With that fear comes that kind of tense body, kind of that on edge feeling. I think, yeah, for the moment and for the humans, yeah, that kind of where are we now and later, right? That kind of getting in that obviously present moment, but also like, what are we going to be? Where are we going to be later? For sure. I think something else that shows up for me is kind of that like protective emotion almost. Like, oh gosh, like I've got to protect this kid. I've got to protect this environment. I've got to protect, concern, for social skills. I think a lot of worry and anxiety. I think an old rule that shows up for me are kids don't do this, right? Kids listen to adults, like, right? Like we are an authority figure, like kids don't do this. If I say this, you do this, right? That old rule kind of creeps in of like, this isn't what other people are expecting. This is unexpected. Got any, Erin?
Yeah, like overthinking or the stuck loop.
Oof. Yep, stuck loop. Ooh, big time. That's a pretty good list of yucky stuff for sure. We'll move on up to kind of our upper left-hand corner, which is what behaviors will I see or hear you using to get relief from the yucky stuff? And I'm going to go ahead and say just like not doing anything, like avoiding all. I'm going to share already a sticky word for my child is cleanup. Anytime I say cleanup, I can guarantee I'm going to get a face, a face, stomping, a growl, something like that. So I avoid that. Avoid. Abort. Decreased interaction.
Saying I can't.
Oof. Yep.
Or won't.
Yep. For sure. Some other things that I tend to do are over prepare. I'm gonna kind of like overdo it. Ooh, self-distract. Ooh, TikTok, Facebook Reels. Yeah, modify behavior for sure. I do a lot of kind of like trying to manage the environment, over prepare. Oh, um, modify the environment. I do a little bit of controlling other people too. Like I'm on top of my husband, like, do not say you're going to take away electronics. That's going to make things bigger. Controlling other people. We got anything else? Oh, appease for sure. Appease the person having the challenge. I forgot to warn people, I'm at school, so you might hear some stuff in the background, some sixth graders transitioning. So I think that's a pretty good list for now. Oh yeah, scream. Yeah, not stay in control. Thank you. Yes. Of what you're doing. Yep, own actions for sure. Another one, is like happy hour, right? A helpful one might be a little bit of yoga or something. Exercise. I can never spell exercise. Ooh. I was like, wow, did I actually get it right? Yeah, be prepared. I was so close. Awesome. That's a great list of kind of like, what do you see? Practice skills without the emotional tie. Those are totally, those go in both, right? Those can totally go in kind of getting some relief from that stuff and moving towards kind of what's important to you. I think I'm going to jump it over here for right now, but that is for sure. I don't know why this one is centered and everything else is not. Be prepared. Know what's coming, right? Kind of get yourself ready. Practice skills without emotional ties. Yeah, sorry, but those, I think they can be both. You're good. No worries. My jumping around all over the place. So right now we're in this kind of upper right-hand corner, which is what behavior will I see or hear you using to move towards what's important to the group, right? And we're thinking kind of what's important to that kind of family unit, right? We don't operate in isolation, right? It's you with your child. It's your child with teachers. It's you with your child with teachers. It's you with the grocery store clerk, right? So we have a little bit more control, but we can be prepared. We can practice skills in times that emotions are not as heavy. I think we can be willing to change ourselves, investigate.
Yeah, I was going to say notice sticky words.
Yeah. Yeah, notice those sticky words. Yeah, be willing to learn new skills. Willing to learn new skills for sure at us, right? And be willing to, I think for me, a huge one is willing to give up old rules, willing to shift off of, I call it parenting of the generations, right? Right, like, yeah, when you're little, you're supposed to be, quiet, seen, not heard. You're supposed to follow directions to a T. Things like that, willing to shift off those parenting rules that are kind of passed down from generation to generation. I think another huge one is acceptance of kind of that every human is different. I know that's a huge kind of thing, but like acceptance that each of us might need something a little bit different. And I'm going to say collaboration with other parents, with professionals, with schools, whatever it might be, but collaboration just with others with an open ear. So, all right. I think that's a pretty great list. I'm pretty proud of that matrix. I will post this kind of for the replay. This will be, this filled out matrix will be in that green button so that everybody can access that if you didn't want to type that all kind of as we go. So, and I don't know how fun that would be on a PDF document. So I want to do a quick kind of loop around the happy medium approach point of view. And I want to start with one of our language pairings. We use a lot of language pairings to narrow the perspective gap between people. We all have our own kind of lived experiences, and language means what it means to us based on, where we've come from, what it's been paired with, who it's been taught by, how we've used it, how our culture uses it, how our geographical location uses it, how it's been passed down, right? Like people who in New England and Boston, where I'm from, don't say their R's, pack the ka and have it yad, I cannot do a Southern accent. You jump over to kind of across the pond and, how language is used there, mind the gap type of things, right? Language gets shaped and we have different perspectives that aren't always very close together. So in the happy medium approach, we utilize a lot of language pairings to really close that gap and support people in seeing things from a more closely aligned perspective, rather than way out here in left field trying to kind of catch each other. So one of our language pairings is too big, too little, and just right. Too big is your reaction was too big for the context, too big for the situation. It just didn't match. It was too big for it. It's like pouring 2 cups of milk into a 1 cup measuring container, right? It's just not going to fit in there. And then too little is your reaction was too little for that context, too small, right? If I needed a cup of milk for the recipe, I only put 1/4 into the 1 cup measuring cup, right? That's just too little. And then just right is your reaction fits the situation. And that would be if you need a cup of milk for the recipe, you poured it right to the cup line or pretty close, right? It was a pretty close match. I want to be really, really, really thoughtful about this. There isn't any predetermined list of behaviors that are too big, too little, or just right. We don't want to promote masking, kind of making people be something that they're not, camouflaging, trying to kind of fit into a context that isn't them. And we definitely don't want to use this for, the sake of compliance, just to comply. We want to use this language pairing and the next tool, which is the noticing grid, as a way to notice, like, how did that context, how did our behavior that we used work in the context that we're in, whether that's home, whether that's school, whether that's playing with friends at the park, whatever that might be. How did that work for us as a human? Not kind of as a society, these things are too big, too little, just right. But me as a person, how did that work, right? Like an example of that would be, there's different types of football fans, right? So to me, it would be a little bit too big for me to be like standing on my chair, like screaming at the quarterback to like throw the ball, like that's too big for me. But for my husband, that's just right. That's what he does at the Broncos games. That's totally his jam. And it's just right for that context for him. So there's just a little example. Also, these language pairings and the noticing grid are not related to zones of regulation or social thinking, but they can be utilized in combination if you're familiar with those guys. But I do want to let you know it looks a little bit similar, but it is a little bit different. So a quick loop around the noticing grid, and we'll have some more crowdcasts in the future, specifically around this tool. This tool is the heart of the happy medium approach. It's our 1-page cheat sheet. On the left side, on the first column, you're going to see our kind of regulation levels, our matching the environment levels for that individual. Again, we don't have like a list of behaviors that work for this and a list of behaviors that work for that. This is very individualized to each human that we use this tool for. And we even use it for different contexts. Like What's too big, too little, and just right for the library? What's just right, too big, and too little for the like the soccer field at recess? I'm just coming up with silly examples. But anyway, our level 1 is calm, just right, engaged, regulated, available, right? This is your go level. This is where I'm at. I'm at homeostasis. I'm here. Level 2 is when we're starting to get a little bit too big, a little bit too small. Some emotions are showing up, the context is changing, and I'm starting to get a little bit too big or a little bit too little for that environment. Level 3 is our fight, flight, or freeze. This is when individuals, their capacity to manage what's going on in the context is gone. This is where we see some of those big, dangerous, unsafe behaviors. We don't want people at a level 3, right? That's where we're in fight, flight, freeze. We don't do any learning. Our next column over is what people see. This is where we spend a lot of time observing the individual, getting to know that individual, right? What do they look like when they're regulated? This is different for all of us. What do they look like? What can I, Erin, Angeles, how could we all walk into that room and say, hey, this person is at a level 1, level 2, level 3? Obviously, there's some nuances in there, but we want to give people a framework to work off of. Our next column is what are other people going to do? That's how we are going to support that individual when they're at particular levels. So when you're at a level 1, how are we going to best support you? How are we going to connect, engage, support? When you're at a level 2, getting a little bit too big, a little bit too small, how are we going to support you in getting back to regulated? And this is really a critical space. This is where we want to intervene. We do not want to get to a level 3 where the only thing we are doing is keeping you and the environment safe and the other people in the environment safe. I know it sounds crazy to hear behavior analysts say avoid, 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 but we don't want to get there. We want to drop the rope before we're in that safety crisis zone. Our next column over is how do I get back to a level 1? And these are all of our strategies, right? When you're already regulated, you still engage in tools to keep yourself regulated. What are those? How can we grow that? How can we build a big, broad group of behaviors for you to utilize to stay regulated? When you're starting to get a little dysregulated, what are tools that you can deploy? You can ask for a break, right? There's so many things. I might need a quiet sensory space. I might need a space with a light off, or definitely not the fluorescent lights that I have in here today, things like that. And then at a level 3, how do I keep myself safe, right? So that's a quick loop around the noticing grid. And we will definitely do more crowdcasts around that, but I do want to get to our kind of the meat and potatoes today of kind of sticky words. And I have a little bit of a relational frame theory video that I wanted to share. I'm just going to share a couple of minutes of it. But you guys have the link and you're welcome to watch it, the full video. It is acceptance and commitment therapy, and it's about kind of how we as humans, it's a newer perspective on how we as humans language and how we create relational networks. So I'm going to play it because she does a great job explaining it compared to me, who would probably talk for a couple hours on just this. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, great.
There's no sound, Rosalie.
Uh-oh. I was wondering if this is going to happen. Well, we might just let everybody watch the video. No sound. I'm not going to spend too much time kind of worrying about that because I think, unless there's a quick fix, hang on. Let me try one thing. That's so sad. Yeah. Okay.
No.
Well, we will let everybody kind of check in with that on your own. That's okay.
Mm.
We don't need it, but I think it's helpful. So please do kind of go check it out. And I love Louise Gardner passed away, I think a year ago. Her work is just fantastic. She has some really fun, creative videos that support understanding of emotions and just all sorts of things. Anyway, just to give her a big shout out. So when we're thinking about language, right, there are times that we are, and we're going to use our little matrix here again, there are times that we are kind of big and broad and flexible, right? Like I'm going to use the picture first and then we're going to go back up to the words. But there's times where we can contact both, right? The five senses experiencing, and we can contact kind of what's going on inside of us, right? We're regulated, we're available, we've got all sorts of stuff going for us. And then there's other times where things will send us straight down into mental experiencing, right? They'll make us really narrow, really rigid. We've kind of lost contact with what's actually going on in the context around us. We're kind of really just stuck in our brains. And it's kind of just like a tornado like that. Some things can be so sticky, it sticks you right down to the bottom of that mental experiencing, making your available skills really narrow. And then there's other times we come out and we're in this context where we can contact both, right? We're in this very balanced state. So when we're thinking about when we're flexible, right, we can contact both. We can contact mental experiencing, we can contact the world around us. We can pause and notice what's going on around us. We can choose if we want to get relief from something showing up, right? Like, is that concert too noisy and I want to go? Or, man, it is so hot in here. I've got to get out of here and get a deep breath, right? We can choose if we want to get relief. We can choose if we want to move towards something that's important to us, right? Do we want to stick it out in that loud concert because it's our favorite band and we're never going to get a chance to see them again? We can remember what's important to us, right? We can contact both those things, the outer experience, the inner experience. We can regulate our body movement. We can regulate those emotions. We can notice those emotions. There's so many things that happen when we're in that flexible state and kind of in balance. And we've got so many behaviors to choose from, right? We can, there's just, and us as adults, we've got oodles and oodles of behaviors when we're in balance and in that flexible space that we can choose from. And that's what we're looking to build for the children we're working with and supporting, and for your children. When we get rigid, right, we lose a lot. We lose contact with our five senses experiencing. We have a really hard time kind of noticing what's going on. We want relief, right? Relief is like our one way out. Like, I don't care what's important to me right now. I don't care about that sticker. I don't care about that extra screen time. I don't care, right? I just want out of whatever is going on right now. We can forget what's important to us. Those relationships, those connections that get a little bit strained when we have challenging behaviors show up. We can get stuck on one solution, like there's only one way out of this, and the only way out of this is for you to give me my iPad. That is it. That is the only way I can get out of this situation. It's challenging to collaborate, and our ability to regulate our bodies and our emotions kind of tank, right? We're kind of getting into that fight or flight zone, depending upon how sticky that word, situation, context, people are. And we don't have much to choose from, right? We really see very little degrees of freedom in our ability to pick what we want to do to get out of that. So that's kind of what happens to us. Now, how, and this visual, it's about being in balance or getting kind of really rigid and narrow. I know that you probably can't see my whole self right now, but that's kind of the difference. When we're broad and flexible, we've got choices, we've got contact. When we're narrow and rigid, we've got very few choices, and we really get stuck very quickly. So how does this happen, right? Like, how do we get kind of out of balance? how does our repertoire narrow? How do words become sticky, or people become sticky, or context becomes sticky? It all comes down to our ability to relate language without actually having to be in that context, right? This is unique to humans. We are able to do that. And so if you think about, a couple of the examples that we have on here are just, somebody's describing to you the new restaurant in town, and it sounds delicious, right? Like you can put yourself there based on the words that that individual is using. And if it sounds appealing to you, you might even get like some responses. Your mouth might start watering. You're going to be like, man, I'm going to go make a reservation for myself to go there, this weekend or whatnot, right? That's really going to drive your behavior. You're not there. You're not at that meal. You're not eating that meal, but just the words that friend is using to describe the meal sounds just amazing to you. And you can put yourself in that position. Same thing if we think about, if a friend describes slamming their finger in the car door, right? Like you are likely to cringe. Actually, you can probably even say right now, to me, writing in chalk, like you can even just say chalk or, oh gosh, cotton ball, and I'll cringe. I'll have a physical reaction just from those words. Those are really sticky for me. But we as humans can put ourselves in those contexts just based on the words that people use to describe things. So thinking about, how advertisers use pictures and words to get us to want to buy things, it's exactly that. Like put a person relaxing in a hammock on a beach with a bucket of Coronas, and I'm like, man, my desire to go there is huge. Like, I really want to be there. Puts me right into mental experiencing. I can imagine myself on the beach, feeling that sand, the nice breeze that comes off, things like that. When we think about a couple of kind of kiddo examples or child examples, going out to eat is actually a kind of a sticky context for me. Is the food just right? Was the service fast enough? Was the table sticky? Is it one of those places like Red Robin or Chili's that have the games that kids can play? One thing doesn't go right, and you're like, can I just get that check? Like, get me out of here. And then even thinking about going out to eat again becomes really challenging, right? You probably avoid it. Like I'm not putting myself through that again. The amount of emotions that showed up, you can even kind of think about being out to eat and you're like, nope, definitely not worth it. Same thing with sometimes like play dates can become pretty sticky, right? Because you've got, maybe a play date doesn't end well. You're carrying your kiddo out of there screaming and crying. Play dates as a parent can become a little bit sticky, just depending upon the way they go, even thinking about going to another play date. Erin, can you come up with any good examples from recent stuff?
I think the restaurant one was the recent one.
The big one for you?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I know for me recently, a sticky one is my child loves rainbow cake from Walmart and King Soopers, and I said no the other day, and whew, boy, I'm not walking past the rainbow cake for a while. Yeah, shopping with kids, totally, right? Shopping with kids for sure. That goes kind of with our kind of next one, where sometimes things transfer from something similar in a way, shape, or form to the next, right? So, an easy way to think about it is when people, are scared of spiders or scared of a dog, everything that kind of resembles that animal, everything with legs, little legs, crawly legs, becomes scary, right? Even though the first interaction, the direct interaction was only with the spider, getting a spider bite, now centipedes, now roly-polies, mosquitoes, all of those things evoke the same response. Your child gets a fluffy bunny, that you bought for comfort. You get you get into the store and they see a stuffed buffalo, right? It's not that bunny, but that buffalo, because it resembles a stuffy, also brings comfort to your child. And and I'm glad you brought that, Angelise, up, the shopping with kids, because that was like a big one for me, right? Like, you've had a big tantrum in the kind of toy aisle at Walmart. Now that becomes toy aisles, even like toy displays as a parent, candy aisles, the grocery checkout stand, right, becomes a little bit sticky because you're like, I know I'm going to have to say no, or am I just going to say yes this time? And so you do your best to just not even go shopping with your child to begin with. That's how kind of, those are two different ways that things can kind of become sticky, right? We've got just language, and we've got where we've got one experience and it transfers from something that looks similar in some way, shape, or form. All right. I want to make sure, it's really important to note that stickiness, sending us into that mental experiencing, can be both light and heavy. And just a quick little background, when thinking and talking about emotions, I try really hard not to create a connotation, right? Like positive emotions or good emotions, or bad emotions or hard emotions. Using the words light and heavy kind of creates almost a way for emotions to be kind of universal, but thinking about it and how do we carry those? Because you can have a really, really, really big, excited emotion that can pull you away, that can be heavy and hard to carry and hard for you to stay in class. Or, you can have kind of a light, scared emotion, right? Maybe about going to like a new context, and it's a little bit easier to carry. Same thing with these sticky words, sticky contexts, sticky places, people. All right, thinking about them not necessarily as good or bad, but they can be light and heavy, easy to carry, or hard to carry, a lot to carry. So these sticky contexts, we were talking a little bit earlier about the beach, right? Like for some people, that might be kind of light and easy to carry. You're in kind of like a nice, light kind of mental experiencing space. Or the shopping example, of having a full-fledged tantrum out and kind of Walmart, for saying no for a toy. And that can be really heavy and hard to carry. They can go both ways. So if we spend a couple of minutes just thinking about words, think about like the words in your favorite song for a second. I'm going to try to be quiet for a minute. I'm not very good at that, but just think for a minute about the words in your favorite song and where do they send you? What happens there? And then if you kind of think about the name of a pet, I know not everybody's pet people, but if you had a pet or even a relative close to you that you've lost, like when you pause to think about that, using words within your brain, what happens? Where do you go? And this can kind of go back and forth, right? Like think about a vacation destination that you've been that you're like dying to go back to. Think about a picture you love, a painting you love, art that you love. Think about a situation you kind of planned. You planned it out. It was like gonna be awesome, and it just didn't go as planned, right? Like where does that take you? What do you feel inside your body? Where does your brain go in that mental experiencing? Think about that name of your favorite person. All those things can kind of keep us going back and forth. So we get and we develop these different degrees of kind of sticky words or context or people because of our history. And I wish that Louise Gardner video had worked, but you guys certainly can watch it after this. But when we interact with the world, right, starting off as babies, right, we're building history. We all have these unique histories. based on the people, places, and things that we interact with. And the degree of stickiness kind of comes from that history, comes from that lived experience, right? Whether it was just the words used to describe. Actually, I just had a situation that happened with my child on her school bus. There were a couple of kids that were just languaging about being scared of another student and worried about this individual's behavior on the bus. And my child, with no direct history, no direct interaction with this individual, became terrified to get on the bus, and was up until like midnight, worried about, what do I do if this happens on the bus? What do I do if I'm not safe? What do I do? So just hearing somebody talk about that brought that stickiness on for her about getting on the bus, just that language. And that's part of her lived experience, right? That's part of her engagement with others, engagement with the world around her. And now I'm going to share kind of a light one. She heard about boba tea on TikTok, right? And so, man, was she stuck on boba tea? Like, all I want to do is boba tea. Boba tea is the best. It's delicious. This is going to be the best thing ever, right? Like, super narrow, super rigid, mom. This is the only thing I want to do for the rest of the day is go get boba tea. So I'm a mom and I like to avoid tantrums from time to time. So we went to get boba tea. We did not like it. Now we know that. now we're a little bit more even when we talk about boba tea. She was like, "This is really disgusting, Mom. I should have listened to you and gotten a mango slushie at McDonald's." So those lived experiences are kind of what makes things kind of sticky or not so sticky or really sticky. That perspective gap that we talked about earlier. How somebody else languages about something and how you experience it, right? Like my child never having experienced any conflict on the bus with this individual, but because of that language, then she got back on the bus, which I'm very grateful for, and had an okay day. So the stickiness of that context is better now. Is it gone? Is it still sticky? Yes. But she's had some more experience. She's created her own perspective, rather than just using the languaging perspective of somebody else. Erin, do you have any good examples of kind of how sticky words came to be for any of your guys?
Well, not one of my guys, but the snow, the driving in the snow is one I always think of.
Oh yeah.
That one. I think, something did come up the other day. It was a funny word, like going to or something, or a phrase. And I was like, that's interesting. Why is that one sticky? They were like, you can't say that.
Isn't that incredible? And you're like, what was sticky about that? The other day I asked a kiddo about going to camp. Like, just, hey, what do you think you're doing with summer camp? I got, whoa, like tornado of behavior. And I was like, what's so sticky about summer camp? And that was, all of a sudden it was like, whoa, here's some big behavior. I just said, hey, what are you thinking about summer camp? I know it's only January, but everybody thinks about summer camp now because otherwise you never get a spot. And it turned out for that kiddo, yeah, if my daughter tasted a meal and just likes it, my son will instantly say that he doesn't like it. Yeah, and he can't be moved. Yeah. It's incredible how that stickiness, it just transfers just like that from words. It's incredible. Thanks for sharing that, Angelise. There's pretty common kind of sticky words, but the way that I kind of think about, like, how do you tell if something's a sticky word for your child, right? Like, kids are going to be kids and they're going to get too big sometimes. They're learning how to be human. I still get too big sometimes. I still get too small sometimes. I still get kind of stuck in my mental experiencing, right? It's going to happen, but how do you tell? And I think you've heard Erin and I kind of language a little bit about it, and Angelise, your example says it too. Like when you language about something, what reaction do you observe from your child, right? Do they approach that? Are they neutral? Do they avoid? Um, Even if you don't use that language, if you invite them to go on a thinking journey with you, right? Like, hey, what do you think about? And now I'm going to be stuck on the summer camp example. I'm sorry, guys, but or maybe I'll try to shift my thinking and do something different. But like, hey, what would happen if I asked you to think about going to Walmart and not coming home with a toy? What do they do? Do they approach it? Are they neutral? Do they avoid? Angelise, for your son, like, what would it be like for him to think like, what if you did like, the same meal as your sister, right? Or what would it be like if you guys matched on meals? Something like that, right? Like inviting that thinking. And is it so sticky that you get big challenging behavior, even when you invite them to think about it, like just using the language to put them in the context, not actually put them in the real live context? And then I think an even bigger degree of sticky is when they have an automatic answer or behavior before you even get a word out edgewise. I think the other day I said something like, hey, and I had a guy be like, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I just said, hey, I was going to ask you if you wanted, if you wanted some more, cookie or something, like something awesome. But they were already kind of in their mental experiencing that I was going to say something that was pretty sticky, like, hey, I want you to turn your noticer on, put your noticer goggles on, and check what emotion is showing up. But before I could even get that word out, I had behavior. I had kind of that avoidance. I'm going to do something different. Definitely not approach type of thing. So I think every human has their own kind of list of sticky words, sticky context, sticky people. And it's actually, I'm going to share this example. I had a field hockey coach who used to call me Rosie, and I did not like it. And it was very sticky for me for a very long time. Anytime anybody would call me Rosie, it would send me straight back down to that mental experiencing of that field hockey coach and all those kind of like yucky emotions. And like, I couldn't even hear what else they had to say. I was that stuck. And today I noticed I had a person that I do a consultation group with that I very much respect. I love her work, and she called me Rosie, and I was expecting to like go, oh my God, I can't hear anything else. But I didn't. I stayed kind of flat. I was like, wow, I've actually like come a long way in this realm. So you might start to notice sticky words for you, kind of what drops you down to the bottom of your mental experiencing. And I share that snow one for me is a big one. Anytime I hear snow in the weather forecast, I almost like already cancel my sessions for the next day because I'm like, I'm not driving in the snow. So I think those are, that's a pretty good one, but a lot are things that we say normally, right? Like, I know I should, I can't, I'm supposed to, I'm not supposed to, it's not supposed to be this hard. I know it's for my own good. I can't have these emotions. I can't talk about this. I'm all over the place. I'm busy. That's just not who I am. I'm this. This is too hard right now. You'll have them fixed by Christmas. We can't. All of those kind of words, you'll start to notice them, right? Like, whoa, did that keep me in kind of that balanced place, or did that put me straight into my mental experiencing? And these might be some sticky words that you hear from providers, right? That become sticky for you over time, right? Ignore them, wait them out. Just don't respond, right? Like that's junk behavior. Just don't respond. You just need to follow through. You need to be more consistent. You need to be more consistent. That one's even sticky for me. Try harder. I need you to do, lower the demands, drop the demands. All of these words are kind of words that I think a lot of providers use with parents, and they can become sticky really fast, right? It's hard to drop all demands. You actually can't drop all demands. Um, you know, behavior is going to get worse before it gets better is another big one. It's going to take time. It's going to take perseverance. It's going to take, make sure you reinforce that behavior. Don't forget to hold the line. Whatever you do, hold that line, die on every single hill. Are you going to, you're going to teach them to get out of it, right? If you let them out, you're going to teach them to get out of it, right? I told my child last night, no, you may not watch TV before bed. She got 10 minutes of TV before we went to bed. So just has to happen sometimes. Take care of you. Do you need a break? Do you have any other ones, Erin? I think we put this list together, but.
Yeah. I think we got a good list.
I think that's a lot of them, but everybody's probably got some that are their own. There's lots of, because I'm central to the household. Yeah. Yes. That's one too, right? You're the hub. Right? Yeah. Yeah. You need to, self-care is really sticky for sure. I think another one that's really sticky is they only do that because they love you, right? They hold it together and let it out for you. That one tends to be sticky for me. That actually happened. It was said to me in a meeting the other day. I was like, I know, but now I can't hear anything else you said. In school, sticky words. Yeah. Yeah, you're their safe place. Yes. That one's a huge one. Yep. They do that because they love you the most, right? There's so many in school sticky words, right? Like, your kid's only one of this, one of, right? One of so many students. We need to do another assessment. We need more intervention. We need to see their response to intervention before. We can't let them out of that task. We can give them a break. We can't support during that time. I mean, the list goes on and on. So how do we become kind of sticky word noticers for our kids, right? I've talked a lot about like how sticky words come to be, right? Sticky words for us adults, because I think it's critical. If we don't notice them for us, it's hard for us to then notice them for our child and also support them in learning how to notice that is sticky and what to do, right? What do we do about that? A lot of what we want to do is work as a unit, right? It's not like just us working on something, just the child working on something. This is all of us working together. So how do we become that sticky word noticer, right? Track your language, right? Observe your language scripts, right? We are a product of our languaging history. So there's often things that we say that are the same over and over. Watch those scripts. What are your child's response to those? Are they helpful? Are they not helpful? What happens if different caregivers use different scripts, right? We can't be perfect and we can't all use the same language all the time, the same response all the time, because we're different humans with different skill sets. So do you notice if another person is using a different script, is it more or less successful? It's funny, I sit back, my husband's learned happy medium so well. Sometimes he uses it way better than I do. And I'm like, oh, wow, I got to remember that script. Thanks. And there's other times where I hear one of his scripts and I'm like, hey, like we've talked about this. This doesn't work so well. This is really sticky. If our daughter's already too big, saying that's just gonna like send her over the deep end. And you can just observe kind of what scripts work, what way of using language is less sticky for your individual that you're supporting your child. And I think language, things can be sticky or not sticky depending upon different contexts, right? No might not be sticky, out playing at the park, but it is sticky at Walmart, right? Notice locations. And if you aren't being successful, try changing up your language. A huge piece to this might be using less direct language. I wonder if, or I'm noticing. Things that are way less direct, using carrier phrases that don't imply a need to respond, but are just there as language. I wonder if you can notice, notice that. I lost what I was going to say. And noticing how your sticky words interact with your child, right? Your child might have learned sticky words for you, right? And they might use them very well. Swear words come to mind in this where, kids hear language and they pull them up, but, they use that language and it's sticky for you and they know it. They can see and feel kind of that rigidity grow. And even for us interventionists, I think I told one of my, the individual I support that I didn't like the name Rosie. So when that individual would get too big, what do you think they called me?
Yeah.
Exactly where we went. Right. So I gave some fuel there. So and Erin, what have you noticed for sticky words with your guys?
Yeah, a big one that comes to mind is when I use like do you or can you a lot to start the sentences. I'm like, why can I not get anything done? When another clinician was actually moving a lot. And so I shifted that to like the less direct, more like, I wonder what happens if this goes on. And that was really helpful.
Totally. That's incredible. I mean, it's amazing if you sit back and just look at those things, right? Like, can you, will you, all of those are phrases that are really kind of, it is, Angeles, thanks. It's back to old rules of how we talk to children, and tones of speech, tones of voice, facial expressions, right? Like if they're too big and dysregulated, like we are supposed to be too big and get over that, right? Like, no, you cannot be too big, right? Like letting go of those old rules, those tones of speech, and even just words in general that we use to talk to children in context when they're dysregulated. So, thoughts on kind of navigating your language and supporting kind of successful action on like when you notice these sticky words, right? Like it's easy to notice the stickiest words because you get big behavior, right? Like no, or get off your electronics, or another one for my child, I'm not taking you to Noodles and Company. I need to think really hard. That's really sticky for her. She loves Noodles and Company. And it almost always ends up in some type of confrontation, dysregulation. I've got to think really hard about that, even while we're talking about this. But listen to them, right? Like, what are they caring about? You can use analogies and metaphors and natural language to kind of shift the meaning of some of these sticky things for them. You can kind of be that change agent that supports them in letting loose a little bit, getting out of that rigid spot and getting to be a little bit more flexible when they hear that language. You can help them start to develop those people files, who likes what, who are they, what are their lived experiences, who are they, like what's worked for them and what hasn't. Develop some metaphors for language that you've heard them use, right? Like if they love Minecraft, speak in Minecraft, right? If they love superheroes, speak in superhero. How do you relate what you're asking them to do? Not in a kind of coercive, like, Superman wouldn't not poop in the potty or something like that, but like, thinking about how do I relate language that isn't sticky to them to support their ability to flex a little bit and becoming more flexible with the language that they're okay hearing, and then they have more behavioral options. They've got more choices, more behavior to use because they're flexible. Is it art? What might it be? Had an individual who loved composers. So we spoke composer for a long time. Instead of speaking directly, no, we're not going to do that. We spoke in Beethoven type stuff. And use information that they already have to relate to others. And then, of course, just notice and track, right? Like, how is this working for my child? Do I need to shift it up? Do I need to try something different? And then I just put together like a little cheat sheet down here that goes with I always go over, I thought I was pretty close to having just the right amount of stuff. I'm glad we didn't see the video because I would have totally run out of time. But kind of put together a little chart of like, how sticky is that word or phrase? And remember, these are going to be individualized, but this is a little bit of a frame. If you've got a word that's super sticky and it pops an individual kind of to that, your child to that level 3 on the noticing grid, dangerous, unsafe, they're emotionally dysregulated, physically, fight, flight, freeze, keep everybody safe, drop the rope and take a note of that, right? Take a note. I'm going to do that different next time. I'm going to use language different next time. If you've got kind of a medium sticky situation, or a sticky word context person, they start moving a little bit faster. Remember, these objective behaviors are going to be different for everybody, but you start seeing that shutdown. They're not engaging in conversation. You got verbal disagreements going on, some refusal. You can label kindly like, hey, I've noticed you're getting a little bit bigger. I've noticed you're starting to move a little bit faster. It looks like you might be feeling a little frustrated. Not a need for a conversation, but just kind of a doorknob, drop it and go. Support them getting back regulated. Does that mean connection with you? Does that mean time alone? Does that mean that they need to engage specifically in an activity? And once they're back regulated, you can keep going, right? And take note. Again, take note. Is that a sticky word? I'm going to kind of change up my languaging and I'm going to support them in another way, another capacity. I'm going to teach that skill to support them with that stickiness. And if it's not sticky, they're regulated. They're using language to get their needs met. If they use an AAC device, if they use a sign, if they use language, whatever it might be, but they're using language to get their needs met or their chosen form of communication, keep going with your day. Present opportunities to learn about things that are sticky, right? Try to create kind of new ways for them to relate that sticky context. A couple funny examples, no is sticky for a lot of little guys. So, I play the no game where I just say no all the time. No is just part of things that I say. No way, you do not like ice cream. No way. Like, I really like that. No, it just no is part of everything I say. So I can support them in pulling that together in flexible ways rather than being this like, no, you can't have this or no, you can't do this way. It's just a word that gets kind of thrown around in my language so that they hear it in more flexible ways. And use your successful language script. Use scripts that work, right? Use ones that are not sticky for them. And have fun. And try things that are hard when things aren't, when we're not dysregulated. So anyway, all right. Erin, do you have any final thoughts?
Nope.
Okay.
Nothing.
That was a quick whirlwind, wasn't it?
Yep. Lots of information.
Yeah, there's always a lot of information. But anyway, I know, hooray! I'm glad to see you too, Angelise. And please do watch that relational frame video. And we'll be back at some point in time with another parent thing. If people have, things that they want us to cover, I'm going to put my email in the chat. And people are welcome to email me with topics that they want covered. I'm trying to hit some of the kind of bigger things that I notice are hard just in homes. It's just hard. All right. I can't type and talk at the same time. All right. Awesome. Well, we'll see you guys another time. There's my email, and don't hesitate to reach out. I'm certainly happy to put together things that people specifically would like. All right. See you later. Bye, Erin. Thank you.
See ya. Yeah.